Hey guys, my name is Ryan and most people are poor. Studies have shown that 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck and only 39% of Americans have the savings to cover a $1,000 emergency. In other words, more than half of Americans are going to be in a pretty tough situation if they ever have a $1,000 problem come up. This is due to the fact that people seem to hate budgeting, and I know what you're thinking.
Budgets are so boring, and I'm not gonna need one once I'm making $1 million per year and I'm driving a Bentley.
Well, are you making $1 million per year right now? No? Alright, keep watching this video then. A lot of people seem to believe that being smart with money will come naturally once they start making the big bucks, but that's not really true at all. Financial literacy will not happen when you have wealth. You will create wealth when you have financial literacy. It doesn't matter how much you make if you don't understand the principles behind saving, investing, and being smart with your money. So in this video, we're going to talk about budgeting and how you can save more money in the long term. I'll be talking about the smartest things you can do with every paycheck, how to build good habits for your financial future, and even how you can afford that Gucci belt that you've been wanting forever. Please watch this video till the end, even if it's at 1.5x speed, because I'll also be talking about what happened when I showed my own bank account to a friend. But if you want to see my bank account too, please smash that like button because it really helps me out and it lets YouTube know that people enjoy content like this. To start, we have to understand what a budget is and why we need one in the first place. Basically, a budget tracks how much money you make and how much money you spend every day, week, month, year, you get the idea. If you don't know where all your money is coming from, and more importantly, where you're spending it every month, how do you know you have enough to cover everything? Also, we'll be discussing budgeting in terms of months, because that's an easy interval that we can use. In order to track your money, you will need to go through all your credit card and debit card statements to see where all your dollars are going every month. At the time I'm recording this video, we're in the month of May, so you'll need to write down every single purchase you've made since May 1st. Did you pay for your cell phone plan? Write it down. Toilet paper? Write it down. Impulsive meal at McDonald's at 3 a.m. on a Friday night? Write it down. I know that this is not the most exciting thing in the world, but this is a necessary step to see just where all your money is going every month. I personally keep all of my expenses in a big Excel spreadsheet, but there are a bunch of money managing websites like Mint, Personal Capital, and You Need a Budget that you can use that help you do this automatically. A lot of people keep track of how much money they make each month, usually by counting their paychecks, but not many people keep track of where this paycheck money actually goes. You'll be shocked at where you're buying stupid things once you start recording all of your purchases, but understanding where your money is going is the first step to making a budget. Now that these purchases are recorded, let's get to the bread and butter. What do you do now? There is a very popular plan called the 50-30-20 budget, and we can break it down like this. With every paycheck that you earn, 50% will be spent on needs, like rent, transportation, utilities, and groceries. 30% of your paycheck will be spent on wants, like fancy dinners, clothes, and maybe even a Gucci belt. 20% of your paycheck will be saved for a rainy day and help you pay off any debts that you might have. This sounds pretty good and reasonable, right? Well, it's not, and let me tell you why this budget plan is awful. This budget is way too generous in giving you money to spend on things and does not focus enough on saving money. Secondly, this budget does not talk about another crucial factor needed to build wealth: investing. But a quick disclaimer is that I'm not a financial advisor or a financial professional in any means. I'm just a guy on YouTube, and these are all my opinions for entertainment purposes only, not financial advice. A good budget allows you to spend, save, and invest. So let's dive into these three categories. If we think about the 50-30-20 budget, we are effectively spending 80% of each paycheck on needs and wants while saving 20%. Most people that hear that think it's pretty reasonable because saving 20% sounds pretty good to them. A lot of people are not gonna like this next part, but you're gonna need to cut your spending by a lot. Some of my favorite YouTubers like The Minority Mindset and Andre Jick have talked about only spending 50% of each paycheck, and I think that you should try to do the same. This means that your wants and needs will be 50% of every paycheck instead of 80% like before. Your rent, utilities, and groceries are going to be in the same category as shopping, eating out, and splurge purchases. What? Before everyone complains about this terrible injustice in the comments section, we have to talk about the concept of living below your means. If you earn $1,000 from your job, that doesn't mean you should spend $1,000, because if you do, your bank account will look like a 4-year-old drawing mountains. You have money, now you have zero. You have money, now you have zero. You have money, now you have zero. You get the point. But I'd have zero complaints if you smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm though, because it really helps me and my channel out. Like I mentioned before, most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck because they're not tracking their money, not saving, and ultimately just hoping and praying that they have enough by the time they get their next paycheck. This is not sustainable because you're essentially playing Russian roulette when you're buying groceries at the end of the month. Thank you for shopping at Whole Foods. Your total will be $80. Thank you. Have a nice day. Oh, thank gosh I went through. Living below your means is the concept of spending less than what you have because you're prioritizing your financial health instead of buying more things. Even though it doesn't sound fun, only spending 50% of each paycheck on needs and wants will force you to be more strategic about where you put your money. You might have to cancel your Netflix subscription, go to Starbucks less, or buy less stuff from Gucci to get to 50% of your income, but I'll talk more about why this is a good thing later on in the video. Good thing? How am I gonna live without Netflix, Starbucks, and Gucci? By only spending 50% of each paycheck, you will get used to living below your means, and this will help you tremendously when you start to make more and more money in the future too. Let me explain. As an example, let's say that you get your first job and you're making $30,000 per year. This is the first time you're making money and you're really excited about having some steady income every month. You work really hard, you impress your boss, and after a year, you get promoted and now you're making $50,000, a raise of $20,000 per year. Now, most people would see that raise and just continue living like they're making $30,000 per year and just save the difference, right? Nope, not even close. Unfortunately, most people would see that raise as a reason to go to Whole Foods more, to buy newer cars, to visit the Louis Vuitton store more often, etc, etc. Worst of all, they might forget to smash that like button, so please do that down below if you haven't already. Since most people fall into the trap of spending more money as they make more money, you need to actively think about putting aside 50% of every paycheck so you don't get sucked into the vicious cycle of spending more and more. When you're making $30,000 per year, only spending 50% means that you can spend $15,000. After your raise and when you're making $50,000 per year, 50% of that means that you can spend $25,000 per year. You still get to spend more money and can treat yourself more, but you're still spending the same 50% of each paycheck and living below your means. This is so important because no matter how much money you're making, you're only spending half of it and you can use the other 50% to do much more important things, saving and investing. Now that we've tracked all of our purchases and talked about reducing what we spend, we need to save some of that paycheck money. Saving is not a way to get rich, but it is a way to protect yourself when life gives you lemons. It is strongly recommended to save out what is called an emergency fund, which is a savings account that will hold enough money to pay for 3 to 6 months of expenses for you. Since you're recording how much it costs for rent, utilities, food, etc., multiply that number by 3, 4, 5, or 6, and that's how much money you need to have in your emergency fund. This is important because if you suddenly lose your job, your car breaks down, you have a medical emergency, or anything else, you have a good chunk of money sitting somewhere for an emergency. Ideally, you want to save this up as quickly as possible, so if you're taking 50% of each paycheck to spend, try to save at least 20% of each paycheck to put into this emergency fund. Once your emergency fund is saved up and fully loaded, do not, and I repeat, do not ever touch it unless it is truly an emergency. I keep my emergency fund in a high-yield savings account with an online bank so that it's out of sight and out of mind. I pretend like I don't even have the money. But this gives you a lot more peace of mind because you know that you're covered in case anything ever goes wrong. Once you have this mentality of saving a fraction of every single paycheck, this will allow you to save up for bigger purchases in the future too. After your emergency fund is finished, you can save up for a house, a car, or that Gucci belt you want because you're used to putting that money aside every month anyways. And best of all, this takes away the guilt of buying nicer things because you know you actively prepared and actually saved up for them. We've talked about spending less, saving up money for an emergency fund and other big purchases, but what do we do with the remainder of our paycheck? With the remainder of our paycheck, we're going to invest it because investing is the best way to grow your wealth, and there are a ton of different ways to invest your money. You can put your money in the stock market and buy individual stocks, dividend-paying stocks, index funds, you can buy real estate, start a business, and the list goes on. There are pros and cons to every form of investing, but investing gives you the best chance to grow out your money. It would take hours to talk about all these different ways in depth, but I'll be making more videos in the future to talk about different ways of investing. However, it is super important to get into the habit of making a budget and using your money to spend, save, and invest every single month. I mentioned earlier that I put my savings in a high yield savings account so that it's out of sight and out of mind. But I do the same with my investing money too. For every paycheck that I get, I always make sure I pay myself first. I move a chunk of it into savings and a chunk of it to invest. All I'm left with in my bank account is enough to cover my needs and wants for the month, and that's it. However, one time I showed my bank account to a friend, and they were like, "That's all you have?" I make my bank account look like tumbleweeds so that I'm never tempted to spend more than I need and so that I always think that I'm running low on money. If I looked at my investments and savings accounts, I would be much more inclined to buy stuff because I would think,
Yeah, I can cover that.
there's a pretty famous quote that says, "The rich stay rich because they act like they're poor, and the poor stay poor because they act like they're rich." Save and invest your money, live below your means, and stick to your budget so that you know what your money is doing at all times. I hope that this video was helpful in explaining why having a budget is important and what you can do with your money every time you get paid. If you enjoyed this video, please smash the like button so that YouTube can recommend this video to other people, and I would really appreciate it. Please leave a comment down below if you had any thoughts on anything I talked about, and make sure you subscribe for more videos like this in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure you stay financially fashionable.